Hey everybody, what's going on? Ben here. I'm gonna do a little bit of a review today of two books, and then talk about a experiment I'm gonna do this year, this growing season. The first book's called Breed Your Own Vegetable Varieties by Carol Deppy, and it's a really good foundation in plant breeding. It's a little bit more technical than the other book we're going to talk about, but it has a lot of information in here. This book I'd actually recommend people buy. I'm actually renting it from the library right now, but there's some great indexes in the back and references throughout the book. I know you can't really see what's going on here. There's not a lot of pictures and visuals, so I'm just going to close it. But I would recommend this one for sure. There's a lot of good stories on how people have bred vegetable varieties throughout the ages, and how she recommends the best ways. And then the next book we're going to talk about is, I don't know if I said it's by Carol Deppy. And the next book is called Plant Breeding for the Home Gardener by Joseph Tychoniewicz, maybe. And this book is a lot more fun to read. There's more visuals. There's more of like a narrative from the author, and it's more personalized to their experience. And I don't know which one necessarily is better to start with. I think maybe this one here, just because it's not as intimidating. This one can be very technical and dry, and at certain points. But between the two of these, I just read these. They cover some similar information. There's some differences between them, but I'd probably recommend the classic Breed Your Own Vegetable Varieties, because it covers almost everything that's in here, plus a little bit more. One random thing I found out from this book, which was really interesting to me, was that apparently certain seeds require forest fire to germinate, or smoke, exposure to smoke and flames. And instead of having to simulate a forest fire to get those seeds to germinate, you can use liquid smoke. I thought that was crazy. So there's some really random fun facts in here, but if you want to get serious, definitely check out the Breed Your Own Vegetable Varieties. All right, on to the experiment. So the plant I'm going to be working with and experimenting with this year is called holy basil. And for those who aren't familiar, it's an Ocimum, same genus as regular basil, Italian basil that you might be used to in Italian cooking, but holy basil is used traditionally in Indian medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, and is the reason why I like it. I don't practice Ayurvedic medicine or anything, but I just think it tastes really good in tea and smells amazing. It's one of the best smelling plants I've ever smelled. Just like when you walk by the bush, you get this like strange grape candy, cinnamon clove smell. So I really want to grow a lot of it, and I want to learn all about it and potentially even make my own varieties. So what I did was, the first step that the books recommend, both of them say, you got to gather as much diversity as possible. So I went on eBay and basically bought every variety of holy basil or Thai basil that I could find, so that I could have a really good starting point. And there's probably a lot more that I don't have. And I recently found out that about the Ocimum also being the Italian basil, the regular basil that we see in stores. So I could incorporate those, but since I want to emphasize the features that are here in these varieties, I'm not going to pull from those. And so just real quick, we'll go through. There's Vana Tulsi. Tulsi is another name for holy basil. Kapur Tulsi. They both have different Latin names. Vana Tulsi is Ocimum, what does that say? Gratissimum. Ocimum Sanctum. Krishna Tulsi is Ocimum Sanctum as well, just a different variety. Same thing with Rama Tulsi. So these are all from Plants with a Purpose. They're a really interesting company. Got some hard to find plants. I couldn't find these anywhere else. So each one of these will have a different taste, different smell, different growing habit, different genes. So they're going to provide a lot of genetic diversity for me to work with. And I should say here before we go on, the reason why I want genetic diversity is because I want to try to create a variety of holy basil that has the taste of the typical holy basil, but has some cold hardiness, so I can grow it here in zone 7A. And I'm going to show you one variety that might be able to. This is another kind of a standard variety, Holy Caprau. Drop the phone, sorry. Sorry about that, drop the phone. So this is a standard variety of holy basil called Holy Caprau. I looked it up. I think this might be basil or Ocimum basilicum, which is more similar to the Italian variety. But I don't think that's correct. I think that was a wrong thing I found on the internet, because this looks and is described as very similar to typical holy basil. So I think this might be another Ocimum sanctum or Ocimum tenuiflorum. I think might actually be the Latin name on that one. Um, and so that one looks like the leaves are a little different color too. And then the last one's Thai hairy lemon basil, which I don't think is actually holy technically. I think it's a more of like a cooking herb that's used in Thai recipes. But since it's very similar in the smell and growing pattern, I think it's probably going to play nicely with the other varieties. And I might have said that was the last one, but I lied. There's one more, Ocimum americanum, which I'm not really sure if it's going to be cold hardy here or if it's a perennial. I found varying degrees of information on that. Some places said it was an annual, some places said it was perennial, and that it could be grown in my climate. So I'm not holding out for sure that this will be cold hardy, but we'll find out this year or the beginning of next year if it survived the winter. But if it is, I really want to cross the gene, the cold hardy gene, from here into one of the other varieties or vice versa. So the result would be a really pleasant tasting, really medicinal, because this is not as medicinal, I don't believe, variety that is also cold hardy. And I've heard from some people that this is a very complex process, and it is. There's a very good chance I could fail, but I wanted to just kind of create, document my entire experience here from day one. So this is day one. We're going to plant them out. My dirty socks, great. Throw those down. Plant them out here and see what happens. And the technique I'm going to do, I thought a lot about this, and I could, like, if you can imagine all these little pockets of each variety growing out in the yard. Some people will say to very carefully pollinate, maybe this variety, the male parts of this flower to the female parts of this flower, and vice versa, and then all the different combinations, and keep track of it, keep organized, and make sure that pollen doesn't get all over the place and contaminate results. I think I'm going to take a different approach to this because I'm not a very organized person. And we're dealing with a lot of complex genes and 7 different varieties and species. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more classic Ben here, classic forest gardener, and plant all of these out, if not randomly, but very close together in pockets of each type. And of course, the bees love holy basil. There's going to be a feeding frenzy in this patch. And there's going to be a lot of cross-pollination between the different varieties. And I'll probably even participate in that, taking some of the flowers here, rubbing them here, and not necessarily keeping track of everything. I'll keep track of what each variety tastes like and smells like, so I can do a video on that. But what I'm going to do is then pool all the seeds after that. And I'll probably separate them out by plant so they get a little bit organized. But the point is, I'm going to take all this genetic diversity and randomly cross it. And then the next generation, I'm going to plant those out and randomly cross them. And I'm going to have a breeding pool of just kind of all these different types of holy basil. And eventually what I'm going to start doing, maybe not this, obviously not this year, but starting the end of next season, hopefully a couple of the plants will survive the winter. That would be the goal. Or even if it doesn't survive the winter, maybe there's another trait that comes out, and maybe there's a flavor that's really good in Kapoor Tulsi that crosses with something in another variety and creates something totally new. Now maybe it's not cold hardy, but I've created a new variety that I can name and I could sell or give away or do further breeding on. But the ideal for me would be to put out the big batch of the generation of randomly crossed holy basils and put them out and see which plants of that second generation survive the winter. And then I'm going to obviously save the seeds of that particular plant, probably only grow that variety next year of holy basil, the maybe 2 or 3 plants that survived, and then have those cross and then save those seeds and just repeat the process. And eventually I'll have a cold hardy plant that also will taste good and have the medicinal characteristics of holy basil and create a cold hardy holy basil for at least 7A, which is a nice. It's not too cold that it would make this impossible, but it's, there's definitely a chance that I can do this. So I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. This is the first time I've ever tried breeding any plants. I know I'm kind of jumping in over at my head. And thanks for sticking in with this video. I know it's a long one, but I'm going to do some more videos in the future, giving you updates, and let's see what happens. Thanks.